They say we have open arms. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms.
A new controversy over a new immigration policy. President Trump threatening to send undocumented immigrants to the very cities that oppose his tough stance on immigration. Also, Kim Jong-un says he is open to a third summit with Trump, but under some conditions. We'll have that also.
I might be bringing you more gifts later, but I'll see you Sunday for the other birthday party, okay?
All right, you're going to like this one. A police officer's heartwarming surprise for a child who was bullied. It makes for an unforgettable birthday for the boy. We'll have that this hour as well. Welcome to our viewers here in the U.S. and around the world. I'm Natalie Allen in Atlanta at CNN World Headquarters, and this is CNN Newsroom. Thanks again for joining us. President Trump is coming under fire for his extreme immigration policies. On Friday, Mr. Trump said he is seriously considering sending crowds of detained migrants to U.S. sanctuary cities as a way to spite his political rivals for not supporting his border wall. Sanctuary cities have policies or laws limiting the kind of assistance local law enforcement will give the U.S. federal government on immigration. Usually, that means they will protect undocumented immigrants. Critics accuse the president of using human beings as political pawns. But Mr. Trump appears to be leaning into the controversy. We get more from Caitlin Collins. She's at the White House.
We can give them an unlimited supply.
President Trump is touting a proposal to place undocumented migrants in sanctuary cities to retaliate against Democrats, shattering his own administration's denials of the policy.
So we'll give them to the sanctuary cities maybe to take care of if that's the way they want it.
Trump making the threat in person after tweeting earlier that because Democrats are unwilling to change our dangerous immigration laws, we are indeed giving strong considerations to placing illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities only. Those remarks coming just hours after a White House official said the idea was briefly and informally raised and quickly rejected. No one at ICE was pressured by anyone at any time. But sources tell CNN the president pushed former Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen to carry out the proposal. She resisted and the plan was scrapped for legal reasons.
This is an outrageous abuse of power and public resources.
The president's warning coming as CNN has learned that during his trip to the border last week, Trump told Kevin McAleenan, now the acting DHS secretary, that if he were jailed or faced legal issues because he blocked migrants from entering the U.S., he would pardon him. It's unclear if Trump meant it as a joke. But the episode revealed the boundaries the president is willing to push to stop a recent rise in immigration numbers, making his frustration clear today.
But if they don't agree, we might as well do what they always say they want.
News of the attempted sanctuary city proposal infuriated Democrats.
About it, but again, it's just another notion that is unworthy of the presidency of the United States and disrespectful of the challenges that we face as a country, as a people, to address who we are, a nation of immigrants.
A spokesman for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who is from one of the highest profile sanctuary cities in California, saying in a statement that the extent of this administration's cynicism and cruelty cannot be overstated. Using human beings, including little children, as pawns in their warped game to perpetuate fear and demonize immigrants is despicable, and in some cases, criminal. But Trump seemed to relish the outrage from Democrats.
Let's see if they're so happy. They say we have open arms. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms.
The drama coming amid an upheaval at DHS, which is now being run by an acting secretary, acting deputy secretary, acting Customs and Border Protection commissioner, and an acting ICE director. A border official announcing that starting today, they'll release immigrants in El Paso to local organizations because ICE is at capacity. And 6 of the major border checkpoints are currently understaffed because agents are being sent to parts of the border that are facing a surge in migrants. Now, the president made clear that he believes this sanctuary city proposal would be a punishment for Democrats. But Jim Kenney, the mayor of Philadelphia, which is considered a sanctuary city, said that they would welcome all immigrants with open arms. He said he believes this latest proposal just shows, quote, the utter contempt for basic human dignity that the Trump administration has. And he added, and I'm quoting him now, that it shows Trump's desire to flout the rule of law to appease his political base. Caitlin Collins, CNN, the White House.
And more reaction is coming in from the leaders of some of those U.S. sanctuary cities. The mayor of Berkeley, California says this: I am shocked but not surprised that once again this president is playing a cynical game with people's lives in order to score political points. To use immigrants as pawns on a political chessboard is outrageous and unethical. San Jose's mayor says in his city and Silicon Valley, we happily welcome any families willing to endure such extraordinary hardship and to take such tremendous risk to endeavor to be part of our great country. And this from the district attorney of San Francisco. The fact that such a proposal is being peddled by the leader of the free world is an all-time low for American discourse. Give you a little sample of what reaction is from those areas. Well, the Trump administration announced earlier this month plans to cut aid to several Central American countries, which the White House says aren't doing enough to mitigate the humanitarian crisis at the U.S. southern border. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is defending that move by the Trump administration, even though State Department statistics show that homicide rates went down and the number of migrants fleeing north dropped after a U.S. aid program was implemented there. But Mr. Trump decided to remove American dollars from these countries, and Mr. Pompeo here explains why.
Hundreds of millions of dollars spent in the Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador, and you see the results. You see the results yesterday. You saw them last week. You see people fleeing those nations, throwing more money at this problem, which is what I think your question is suggesting. There's no reason to believe that we'd get any outcome that is different from the one that we're suffering from today. So what the Trump administration is trying to do is saying, hey, we're prepared to help, we're prepared to engage, we're prepared to support, but you have to take serious efforts, whether it's in Guatemala, El Salvador, in Nicaragua, and Mexico for that matter too. We need those nations to ensure that their people aren't making this dangerous transit across Mexico and coming into our country illegally. That's what we're asking these countries to do. When they begin to do that, America's support will again return.
All right, let's talk more about what's going on with this immigration issue with Natasha Lindstad, professor of government at the University of Essex. She joins me from Colchester, England, frequent visitor to our program. We appreciate you. How are you doing, Natasha?
Good. Thanks for having me on again.
Sure. Well, we've got much to talk about because much is going on with this immigration saga here in the United States. Let's begin with the U.S. cutting off aid to the countries. Mike Pompeo there echoing the administration's rationale that cutting aid will help keep people from leaving these countries. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense at all, and really any study would disagree with that, because the aid is actually really critical to providing support services, security services to these countries that are deeply impoverished. I mean, Honduras was almost a failed state at one point and really required a tremendous amount of aid to deal with the growing drug problem, crime problem that they have. All these three countries have incredibly high homicide rates. It is through these programs that we can assist with that. It is not through cutting off aid to them. That is only going to exacerbate the immigration crisis, and that's why there has been such a spike in immigration from these Central American countries, is because these zones have become unlivable for these people. They are incredibly violent, and his strategy of cutting off aid just doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Well, President Trump certainly is determined to stem the tide of migrants where they're coming from, these countries we just mentioned, any way he can, even if it's against the law. The sanctuary cities idea is against the law, or shutting down the border, which everyone says will really hurt the economy. But he is not backing down, Natasha. It shows the boundaries he is willing to push, doesn't it?
Exactly. It does really show that he's willing to test the boundaries of both public opinion and the law in order to animate his base. If you look at public opinion on the family separation policy from a poll of 2018, 2/3 of the country is against the family separation policy. But he doesn't really care about that. He focuses on trying to energize his base with more hardline policies because he thinks that this is going to win votes in 2020. It's going to distract from other issues going on. If you were to look at the same 2018 poll, it revealed that of non-college educated white Republicans, 60% approved of his family separation policy and about 50% of educated white Republicans. So he thinks this is the strategy that is going to work by sort of flouting the law consistently and creating more hardline policies, more obstacles for immigration, more deportation, more reopening of deportation cases, trying to turn away asylum seekers, creating a denaturalization force, which, something I hadn't even really heard of, that they're actually trying to go after already naturalized citizens. So, he doesn't really care about what the majority of the country feels. He is trying to polarize the country as much as possible. And this whole idea of using human beings as a weapon and putting them on sanctuary cities against his enemies. I mean, his enemies, he's talking about the American public.
Right.
It is really astounding.
Yes, and all the while blames Democrats, he tweeted, who says that they are unwilling to change immigration laws, and he even seems to kind of enjoy making them angry. Do you get a sense of that?
Well, that's, again, all about the fact that he loves getting his base riled up, getting them going, and he knows one of the things that's going to work well with them is to get the Democrats up in arm and have them have a response, because then when they respond, then he can respond back, and this little playing back and forth and jibes going back and forth actually really endears himself to his base. They love it when he fights hard for them, and he has no attempt ever to think about unifying the public, coming up with a comprehensive immigration plan that everybody can get on board with. And we understand that immigration has been an issue, but that doesn't necessitate trying to create winners and losers and to vilify the Democrats in this process.
Right. So I wanted to ask you about that. Should Democrats hold firm? I mean, every time he does something like this, Nancy Pelosi comes out and says her piece about it. We just heard mayors from these sanctuary cities giving their opinion on this. Is there any room for compromise among both parties on immigration? I mean, clearly the system is broken, and all we are seeing is tit for tat and tit for tat. It just keeps going on and on.
Well, there was actually a lot more room for compromise between Republicans and Democrats in the past. That they understood that this was something that could have been dealt with in a bipartisan way. Slowly, over the last 20 years, the Republican Party has grown increasingly more anti-immigration. If we look at a poll, actually a fairly recent poll from 2019, revealed that 83% of Democrats think immigration is a good thing, and on the flip side, 38% of Republicans think immigration is a good thing. So it's just become so incredibly polarized, more so than ever before, where it used to be something that was just such a huge part of U.S. identity that both Republicans and Democrats could kind of get on board with a comprehensive plan that was bipartisan and work together on this. This has become a hill to die on for Trump and the Republicans, and Republican congresspeople have become increasingly willing to support him. And there doesn't seem to be really that much room for compromise at the moment.
Right, or room for sanity, when you're discussing this issue and not having it be so inflamed all the time. All right, we'll leave it there for now, but I have a feeling you and I will be talking again. Natasha Lindstadt, we always appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, nice to see you again.
Thank you. All right, another topic we're following here. 6 weeks after the second summit between the U.S. and North Korea ended abruptly in failure, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has something new to say. He says he's open to a third summit, but with a catch. He says the U.S. must change its attitude, and he'll give the United States until the end of the year to decide if it wants another summit. Speaking before the Supreme People's Assembly in Pyongyang, Kim said, "What is obvious is that if the United States sticks to the current political way of calculation, the prospects for problem solving will be dark and very dangerous." Well, let's go to Seoul, South Korea. Our Paula Hancock's always our correspondent on this beat. Hello to you, Paula. And so how do you decipher what North Korea means by that language? And so how should it be interpreted?
Well, Natalie, it was an interesting speech, and it's really the first time that we've heard the North Korean leader directly talking about what happened in Hanoi and directly laying out what he wants to see going forward. So the United States can take some heart from this, the fact that he's not shutting the door on these talks, as was suggested a few weeks ago by the Deputy Foreign Minister, Choi Sun-hee, saying that Kim Jong-un was going to decide if he even wanted to bother with these talks after Hanoi. So he's saying that he will be willing to meet with President Trump again, but there are conditions. He said that the United States has to change its way of calculation. He said that he's not willing and not happy to have another summit similar to Hanoi, where they walked away without any agreement. And as you say, he's given a timeline now. He has said that he will give the United States till the end of the year to decide if that is something that they want to do. It's interesting that he's now trying to hurry this along, because North Korea has always been playing the long game when it comes to denuclearization talks or any kind of talks with the United States. And it's actually the US President, Donald Trump, who's saying that he has all the time in the world, saying that there's no need to rush this, and if they do rush it, then it wouldn't be a proper deal. So it is also interesting to see that once again Kim Jong-un is praising Mr. Trump, or at least saying that the relationship he has with Mr. Trump is far less hostile than that between the two countries. So once again, even though he is criticizing and has been criticizing the United States, he's very careful not to criticize the US leader himself. Natalie?
Right, we've seen that that oddity between these two for months now. But so let's talk about a go-between. You know, the South Korea president was just with President Trump. Can South Korea be somewhat of a mediator here as we get this new language from North Korea?
Well, this is exactly what the US president has asked President Moon Jae-in to do. Whether he can is another matter. We heard after that meeting between President Trump and President Moon from the Blue House that as soon as President Moon got back to Seoul, he was going to try and get in touch with North Korea and try and set up another summit or another set of talks between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in. And President Trump had said report back to him once he knew how that was going to go. So he is still appearing to be some kind of mediator, the go-between, but we've heard a very different opinion from those two leaders as to how they want to go forward with North Korea. South Korea is happy to have a step-by-step process. They're happy just for the momentum to keep going. President Trump says he wants the big deal. Natalie?
All right, we appreciate it. Paula Hancock's always helping us understand. Thank you, Paula. Another leader out in Sudan as the head of the military council steps down in that country just one day after taking over. We'll have a report on the latest development in this volatile situation. Plus, two high-profile politicians at the intersection of religion and lifestyle in a feud over faith. The vice president and a candidate for president, both from the same state. That story when we come back.